Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Thank you for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be making 12 cards with Echo Park's Magical Birthday Girl collection. Before I get started with this video tutorial, go ahead and click that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber and turn on your bell notification so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. So I did a craft haul a few weeks ago showing this collection, but I want to just quickly show it again before I start my card tutorial, just in case you missed that. So this is the 6x6 paper pad. It's again the Magical Birthday Girl collection, and it has a lot of pinks, pastel blues, yellow. It has some blacks and some white in it. Now there's also a Magical Birthday Boy collection, which is identical. I believe that the paper pad is very similar. I know the sticker sheet is identical, only it has different colors. It has blues, reds, yellows, and also blacks and whites. So if you would rather pick up that birthday boy collection, you could probably replicate a lot of these cards using the other collection. And I will have links to both of these collections below. This is the sticker sheet. I did pick up the 12 by 12 sticker sheet to use on my cards. And I also picked up these ephemera pack, and I will lay those out here momentarily. But I also want to show you that I also picked up the coordinating solid color cardstock, which has 6 sheets of solid cardstock that coordinate with the colors in the paper pad, and there are pinks, blues, yellows, blacks, just as you see here. So here is all of the ephemera laid out. The ephemera consists of various sentiments that you can use on your cards, and that's why I picked up the sticker sheet, because it has more I want to say decorations, because it has more pictures such as cakes and cupcakes that you can use in conjunction with your sentiments. For my first card, I'm going to be using the Mojo Monday Sketch 525, and this black piece of cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I have the balloon paper that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I also have some circles that I use some circle dies to cut out of the pattern paper. So the large circle is a 3-inch circle, and I also have a 1 5/8 inch circle. That's the blue polka dot. I think that's polka dot paper. And I'm also using the Birthday Girl sentiment that is a circle shape. So I thought this would be perfect for this layout since that's already in a circle and it says to the birthday girl. And I am using a ribbon from my stash, and I'm just going to put a ribbon underneath those circles, and I'm just going to attach it on the back side of this cardstock layer with just some double-sided adhesive tape, just so that it stays secure and doesn't move. So you can see that card sketch, the circles are a little bit different in size, but that's okay. I think the card sketch shows a 3-inch circle, which is what I used, but then the middle circle, I think it shows a 2 1/4 inch circle. So my black circle is slightly off than that, which is okay. I mean, it doesn't need to be exact. So when you're following a card sketch, it does not need to be exact. You can modify these any way you want to suit whatever, ephemera and stamps and dies that you might be using on your card. So here I'm going to go ahead and attach that layer to the black cardstock layer, and that black cardstock layer, it's from the cardstock 12 by 12 sheet that I previously showed at the beginning of this video. And I am going to be attaching that to an A2 size card base, and that A2 size card base, it is a white card base. It measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's just a pre-scored and pre-cut card base that I picked up off of Amazon. I picked up a large pack of them, and I like to use them for just simple quick cards so that I don't have to worry about cutting cardstock. And I will also have links to all of these products, including those A2 card bases, down below in the description box. So you can see I did add the cupcake from the sticker sheets, and now I'm just putting a few epoxy dots on this card, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I am going to be bringing in another card sketch. It's OWH number 93, and I have a white tag that I cut out using the Created Tag set from the Stamps of Life, and that set is a set that was previously on HSN. I believe it's still on there, and I will have a link to that below. I did put that sticker from the sticker sheet of the cake on top of the tag, and here I just have some pieces of pattern paper that I cut down. So starting with that pink largest piece, that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The yellow star strip of paper is 1 1/4 by 5 3/8. I also have 2 rectangles cut out of pattern paper that I cut down to 3 by 4, and I'm just layering them kind of. The bottom one is kind of like at a diagonal, and then the top blue one I made sure that I put straight. So I'm just attach those together and then just adding glue on the back, and I will add those flat to this card layer. And I am going to be bringing in an ephemera piece that says blow out the candles. So I'm going to add that to the card, and I'm also going to add the tag. But before I add the tag, I am going to bring some twine in from my stash, and I'm just putting it in a knot and doubling it up because I wanted to have a double layer of twine, and then putting it through the loop and just attaching it to that tag. And I will add some double-sided tape to the back of that so that it stays down on the back of that tag. I'm also taking the top piece of the twine that usually sticks up on the tag, and I'm looping it behind because I want to tuck it in behind the tag when I put it on the card. So I just loop it behind, add some double-sided adhesive tape to keep that twine down, and then just remove that double-sided tape and add some glue to the back of this so that I can add it to my card front. I added some double-sided adhesive foam to the back of the ephemera piece that says blow out the candles, added that to the bottom left, and then added a sticker that says celebrate to the right side of the tag, and then I'm adding some glue and adding that to an A2 size card base in white. And then to complete this, I just add a few epoxy dots from my stash, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I have a yellow and white striped paper which measures 4 by 5 1/4. That star with the black on it strip is 4 by 1 1/2. I also have this sticker. This is a border sticker from the sticker sheet which I'm putting down at the bottom of the white and yellow layer. So I just add that there and trim off the excess, and then I'm going to add that star strip right above it. I'm also going to be bringing in the ephemera sentiment that you see there, celebrate the birthday girl. It's a pretty large piece, so it's going to take up a pretty large part of the front of that card. I'm also going to be bringing in some balloon dies that I have in my stash, and they are the balloons to cut dies, which actually comes with a matching stamp set, and I've already die cut some of the balloons out. They're sitting there on the table, and you can see that I'm just inking up the edges. This is the candy ink from the Stamps of Life, and I'm just putting ink on the edges of the sentiment as well as the balloons just to add some dimension. I like to do that. A lot of times you'll see me do that in my videos just to add some dimension to the cardstock layers. So for the blue one, I'm using the Blue Jay ink from the Stamps of Life because I thought that those colors matched perfectly. So I did die cut, you can see the balloon dies there on the table. I die cut a larger balloon and a smaller balloon out of the pattern paper, and I am putting a piece of a glue dot there on the back and adding some twine to keep that twine in place, just attaching it there to the glue dot. And this balloon set, just want to add, has a set of matching stamps with different patterns, which I didn't use the stamps, I just die cut the balloon dies out of the pattern paper, which I think works perfectly because it matches perfectly, obviously, to all of these pretty pattern papers that are in the set. So here I'm putting the blue balloon flat against that card base, and then the pink balloon I'm putting some foam on the back just to raise it up above the larger balloon. And then I'm going to take the twine and I'm just going to tie it in a little knot there at the very bottom. Now, if you wanted to, you can have your twine just showing at the bottom of the card, but I like to tuck my twine behind the layers. I don't know, I just think it looks better that way. So I tuck it behind the large sentiment. I am going to tape this down just to keep it in place. And then I'm going to add some foam to the back of the sentiment just to raise that up, and then add that on top of the card layer, and that will cover up the knot in the twine as well as the tape that is holding that twine down. So here I'm going to put some glue on the back of this entire card layer and add this to a black card layer, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and that will be added to a white A2 size card base. And that completes this card. So for my next card, I'm going to be making a shaker card, and the sketch I'm following is the Mojo Monday 512 sketch. So I have the piece of pattern paper. It's the happy birthday with the cake on it, and that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm adding a piece of blue firework pattern paper, and that strip measures 2 by 5 1/4, adding that right to the top of that single card layer. I also cut down 2 strips of solid pink of these cardstock pages, and those are 1/8 inch strips. So each of those pink strips will go on the left and right side of that firework paper. So I'm just adding some glue. I thought that would be the easiest, to add some glue directly to that card layer where the strips are going to be, and then just adding the strip right on top of that glue that I applied. And my strips were cut a little bit longer than that card layer, so I'm just going to turn that over and then just snip off the excess. I'm going to be bringing in this frame from the Ephemera pack, and the middle part actually cuts out. It's perforated, so I'm just taking that middle part out. I'm still going to use that middle part, but since this is going to be my shaker element, I'm going to first attach that sentiment flat to my card layer. And that sentiment, it says birthday cupcakes on it. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue, just making sure that I place it exactly where I want that frame to go. So I want to make sure that I have that frame down, and then just add the sentiment right inside of that frame, and then just remove the frame because I need to attach a piece of acetate and first cut it down to size. So I'm taking that frame and just positioning it on my acetate. This acetate that I'm using is actually just the acetate from the packaging from the 12 by 12 cardstock sheets. And that's all I'm using. So you can just be creative if you don't have actual acetate and just use your packaging. So I'm just measuring, just estimating here how large I need that acetate to be, and just trimming it down to size, and just making sure that it actually fills that window. You want to make sure it's a little bit larger than the actual window opening of that frame. So I added some glue to the frame and then added the acetate right on top. And next I need to cut some foam down to size, and when you're making a shaker you need to make sure that your foam, it doesn't have any gaps in it. So you notice that I'm cutting the foam in strips, and I'm just going to put those strips along the 4 edges of that square frame, and you want to make sure that your foam is pressed against the next layer of foam so that there are no gaps or no opening spaces so that your shaker bits can possibly fall out. So just make sure the foam is snug on all 4 corners, and then once you have your foam in place, I'm just going to add some sequins here, adding them directly to the middle of that sentiment on my card layer, and then I'll be able to pop that frame right on top of those shaker bits. So I'm just peeling back the double-sided backing off of that foam. And I always like to just add a little bit of glue just to make it a little bit more secure. So that's what I'm doing here. Even though it is sticky foam, I'm just adding some more glue just as another layer of security. And then just adding that right on top of the sequins. And that's pretty much how you can make a shaker element using your frames in your ephemera packs. So then I'm just going to take that entire layer and add it to a pink layer, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm going to add my cupcake sticker. This is from the sticker sheets. Add a couple more stickers here to the top left, and then that entire layer will end up going on an A2 size white card base. And that completes my shaker card. For my next card, I will be using Card Sketch OWH19, and I have some layers that I've already cut down to size. So I have this musical note paper, it's with the craft background, that is 4 by 3 3/4, and I'm adding that to the top of a white layer. The white layer is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then the stripe pattern paper will be layered at the bottom, and that is 4 by 1 1/2. And that entire layer will be layered onto a yellow layer, which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm bringing in some scalloped rectangle dies that measure 2 1/2 by 3 3/4. Those are some dies from the Stamps of Life. Adding the happy birthday tag to the top of the white one, and then both of those scalloped rectangle pieces will be layered kind of just at a diagonal and then layered onto that entire card layer. I'm adding some cupcake stickers to the bottom left, adding that entire layer to a white A2 size card base. And then I'm adding a bow using some yellow ribbon from my stash and just adding some hot glue to the back of the knot in that bow and adding it to that tag, finishing up by adding some epoxy dots, and that will complete this card. For my next card, that castle pattern paper, it measures 4 by 3 1/2, and I'm layering that onto a piece of pink solid color cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So that is, castle paper is going to go towards the top, and then I have this blue and white dot paper that measures 4 by 1 3/4, and that's going to go there towards the bottom. I also have a dotted square die that is from the Stamps of Life, and I cut that out of some solid pink cardstock. If you don't have a dotted square die, you can use any square die, or you can just cut your paper down to 3 1/8. So it's 3 1/8 all around. And I'm just adding that there in the middle of the card. I also cut this yellow pattern paper out of a scalloped tag die from the Stamps of Life. I'm going to layer that behind that ephemera piece. So just add some glue there and then add that directly down to the square. And then I'm going to put the ephemera piece right on top of that. Then I'm going to bring in this balloon sticker, and I chose that sticker because it matches the same design that's on the sentiment. I add the big smile sticker to the bottom of that square and add that entire layer to an A2 size card base, add an epoxy dot to the middle of that scallop tag, add a piece of twine with some glue dots, just attach it with some glue dots, and add a couple epoxy dots on the square, and that completes this card. For my next card, I took a stitched rectangle die and die cut this cloud pattern paper, and then I took a solid rectangle die and die cut the pink paper, and now I'm taking the cloud paper with a smaller stitched rectangle die, and I am adding some washi tape down and just die cutting the middle part out because I'm going to use that middle part as I layer these pieces of paper onto each other. So I have the larger one on the back, then I have the pink solid, and then the smaller stitched design there on the top. Now I will have measurements to all of this on my blog, so if you want to replicate any of these cards, you can head on over to my blog. There will be a blog post down in the description box, and you can head on over there with all the supplies, and measurements will be listed on the blog. So I'm just adding these layers, and if you don't have these stitched rectangle dies or solid rectangle dies, you can just cut your cardstock pieces down to size and have this same effect. And again, those measurements will be listed for you. So once I add those, I am going to be bringing in the Hooray sentiment from the ephemera piece, as well as the balloon stickers. I just took my powder tool and I rubbed it against the back of the balloon stickers to remove some of the stickiness. I wanted to add some double-sided adhesive foam to the back, which I did, and did that for both pieces. Then I'm going to add those to my card front, and that completes this card. So for my next card, I am using the card sketch from Mojo Monday, and it's card sketch number 550. So I have these two pieces of pattern paper. The blue and white polka dot paper is 4x3. The plaid paper is 4x2 1/4. I add those on top of a black piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I add a yellow strip of the star pattern paper that measures 1/4 by 4. Add that to where those papers meet. And I'm using this tag sticker, and I add that tag sticker to the top of a tag that I die cut out of pink cardstock. And the tag is actually from the Create a Tag set from the Stamps of Life, similar to the one I used earlier. It fits perfectly on, the sticker fits perfectly on that tag, and what I did is I just cut the excess cardstock off the bottom so that it fits the tag to size. And then I just add some twine there. I doubled up on some twine and just add that through the loop. I am going to add some double-sided adhesive tape to keep that twine down on the back. I'm going to loop that twine around the back of that tag and add that double-sided adhesive tape just to keep it down. That tag will be added to the right side of that card. I also took some dotted star dies from the Stamps of Life and die cut 2 stars out of the black star pattern paper, and I'm going to add those to the top portion of this card. That die set, that star die set, it has several star nesting dies, and they range from very large to even smaller than the ones that you see there. So then I'm just going to add an epoxy dot to cover up that hole and add a few more epoxy dots, and then add that entire layer onto an A2 size white card base. So here I just want to bring in that card sketch again and just show you the differences. You can see this large strip. I made mine a much thinner strip, and instead of the circle I used a tag. And then obviously the stars are very similar. So that completes this card. For my next card, I have that balloon paper that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm going to layer on the blue and white polka dot paper kind of in a diagonal. That paper measures 4 by 4 1/4. Once I add that there, I'm just going to trim off the excess cardstock. I also have that yellow and white striped paper, which I'm going to put completely vertical on the front of that card layer. That paper measures 4 by 3. I'm also going to be bringing in the ephemera piece with the birthday cake. Also going to be bringing in some stickers from the sticker pack. So I added the large corner sticker there to the bottom left, and then I'm going to add the birthday cake piece of ephemera right to the center of that card, add the sticker that says surprise off to the right hand side, and then add that to an A2 size card base. I'm going to add a few pink epoxy dots, and that will complete this card. For this next card, I have this birthday hat pattern paper that measures 4 by 3 1/2. I'm adding that to the top of a yellow card layer that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I'm adding the polka dot pink pattern paper to the bottom, and that measures 4 by 1 3/4. I am bringing in a tag, adding the birthday cake sticker as well as the eat cake sticker, putting that on the tag, and then I'm just going to double up on some twine and tie it through the hole. I've done several cards in this video where I have pattern paper at the top separated by a smaller piece of pattern paper at the bottom, or vice versa. And I just want to add that when I'm deciding on papers, I tend to use a busier pattern on one portion and then a not so busy pattern on the other portion, because I think that 2 busy patterns would look like just too much. So that is my thought process on that. And I have this tag die. I did die cut that little blue piece that I'm tucking underneath. It's from the Create a Tag, and it's just like you can take this actual yellow tag and put the top portion, die cut it in a different color and put it at the top of the tag, but I chose just to use that top portion of the tag and just tuck a little piece underneath that. If you don't have that particular die, you can just cut a small piece of pattern paper and tuck a piece of paper behind. I just think it adds a nice detail. I add the birthday sticker across the bottom and add some epoxy dots, and then put this entire layer onto an A2 size white card base, and that completes this card. For card 11, I'm using MFT Sketch 416, and I'll show that here in just a minute. But I'm taking this piece of white cardstock and I'm just adding some stickers to the front. So adding some of the presents and some of the swirls to the front, and I add this tiny little sticker that says birthday wishes and add it there off to the right. And that white piece is 4 by 2.5, and I layer that onto a piece of black cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 2 5/8. The party hat paper measures 5 1/4 by 4, and then the black cardstock underneath is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. So I'm just going to layer those on just as you see. I was trying to decide if I wanted to use the large sentiment or the smaller sentiment. I went with the smaller sentiment because I kind of thought that the larger one was a little bit overpowering on this card. And I take some pink twine from my stash and just wrap it around just as you see, tie it in a bow and snip off the edges, and I just add a glue dot just to keep that middle part of the bow just down on that cardstock. And then that entire layer is going to go on an A2 size card base, so I'm just going to add some glue to the back and add that to my card base that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm just going to add a few epoxy dots, and that's going to complete that card. For card 12, I'm going to be using OWH Sketch 96, and I have cut all my pieces that you see here. So I have this black pattern paper that measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and I'm going to add that onto a yellow piece of cardstock that measures 5 1/4 by 4, and notice that I'm putting it in the center, so I have a little bit of the yellow showing above and below that black pattern. I'm also going to be bringing in the Make-A-Wish ephemera piece, as well as 3 of these banners from the ephemera pack. So I'm going to add those directly to the card front. I start by adding the large sentiment, and then I add the banners just to make sure that those banners are perfect distance from the top to the bottom of the sentiment piece. And then I add that entire layer onto a black piece of cardstock that measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, and then put that on a white A2 size card base. I finish up by adding a few of the epoxy dots. They're just some pink epoxy dots that I have in my stash. And that will complete this card. So please leave me a comment down below and let me know which card is your favorite. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials. I will have all the links down below to the products in case you're interested, as well as my coordinating blog post with measurements, and I will have a few of these cards in my Etsy shop as well. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.